It's crazy to believe that I have yet to do a Bed Buck and Hall of Shame video on the fool that you see on your screen. Maybe that's because I didn't start those videos when I last talked about him. But in case y'all don't know who this is Daniel Cameron. He is a politician out there now, I guess you can say, out in Kentucky. And he is an ally, I guess you could say, knighted by Mitch McConnell. And anyone who knows me personally knows I can't stand Mitch McConnell. Anytime I see that man's face or hear his voice, I immediately start to tense up. Like really, or I just go in another direction. Can't stand him. So imagine when I hear that this guy literally is linked in with this dude, makes me despise him even more. But we all know where we first heard about Daniel Cameron was back in 2020 when it came to Breonna Taylor and how this dude decided to not bring up any charges or prosecute any of those murderers involved with the murder of Breonna Taylor. And then you start seeing pictures of him, with his wife. You don't have to ask who she is or what she is. Yes, she is. If that's their question, yes, she is. And people he would surround himself around, I swear, like he feels so important to be the only black guy in the room. Then they're out in Kentucky. The black population in Kentucky is very, very, very slim unless in certain parts. But as far as an overall state, it's very PC. And it's also the same state that has the infamous Owsley County, which is one of the, if not the poorest county in America. I did a whole rundown about Owsley County a couple years ago. I don't know if it was on this channel or the one that got terminated before I made this one. But it is what it is. But the reason why I'm here today to talk about Daniel Cameron is because now he seems to be moving on up in the world because he won the nomination to be governor for the state of Kentucky. He was the attorney general, but now he has won the nomination to be the governor for the state of Kentucky. Now, you don't even have to ask yourself as to how or why that happened. It's simple, because he refused to prosecute those cops that murdered Breonna Taylor. So this is his reward. They are literally paying him in butter biscuit crumbs. And there he is to nibble on those crumbs because, hey, raccoons got to eat. They say fish got to swim, raccoons got to eat. Because if he had prosecuted them, especially when the outrage, quote unquote, came from a certain side, he wouldn't have got this nomination. They probably would have ran him up out of the state, him and his wife and family if he has any kids. However, he did see to it that Kenneth Walker, Breonna Taylor's boyfriend, get charges for attempted murder. He was even locked up a couple of days, but he underestimated the power of Judge Olu Stevens, one of the most on-code judges in the establishment right now as it stands. He looked over that case and basically said this was blasphemy and had those charges against Kenneth Walker rightfully dropped. They shouldn't have been there in the first place. But that goes back to what I was saying about how black people aren't allowed, quote unquote, to defend themselves. That also goes back to one of the Black Massacre series episodes that I did where I forget what town it was, where there were black men running to these shops to go and get some arsenal. And they plain out told them, don't sell them anything. They basically allowed those black men and their families to be left wide open for attack without the attempt of being able to defend themselves. So when you think about how this stand your ground law is right now and how black people can't benefit from it, or they'll try to find a loophole in there somewhere for it to work against them, or should I say against us? Think back to that episode I did one thing I'm not able to get off of my chest when it comes to that series, it's because I want it to flow a certain way without me giving my opinion on it, is that a lot of the stuff that happened back then still happens today. I can see it in the comment section, and y'all literally are my mouthpiece at that point, because again, I'm just reading off the information without me giving my take on it. But a lot of the stuff that happened back then is happening today. When I read through that stuff, I be wanting to pause so bad and just say that's crazy because I can relate that to this situation or this story. But I don't. I choose not to. I let that be up to the viewer. And y'all hit that mark every single time as soon as I get to a certain point. And I just know when y'all are going to react to a certain point. But back to this dude. Yeah, he is the nominee to be the governor to be the governor of Kentucky. It says he's running against the current governor, whose name is Andy Beshear, who's running for re-election. And they say he's one of the most popular governors in the country. And they say even Republicans believe he will be difficult to beat come November. Now, imagine that. They said he's one of the most popular governors, not in the state of Kentucky, but the establishment. So much so that Republicans, the people that Daniel Cameron is linked up with, say it might be hard for him to beat because of his popularity. It makes you wonder, what has this Andy Beshear done for the state of Kentucky that could get him back in that they feel Daniel Cameron cannot do? Hopefully it's a lot. Now, I don't lean one way or another way. But I hope Daniel Cameron loses. I hope by a landslide, I hope he gets slaughtered out here. But here's the thing. Let's just say that if he loses this, his political career went to, a place to die. It found a resting place never to be resurrected. At least if he did want to come back and do anything political, he could. Unfortunately, Breonna Taylor doesn't have that option in reality, because this life is not a video game. If you die in a video game, you can always start from a checkpoint. When you die in reality, there's no coming back from that. And the least he could have did was the right goddamn thing and bring up charges against those fools. He didn't even have the decency to do that. No matter what the outcome could have been, because black people, we already know how this game goes. It would have been a miracle if she had the same outcome as Ahmaud Arbery. It would have been a miracle if she had the same outcome as, George Floyd. It would have been a miracle if she had, and I hate to use it as an example, but I'll use it, with Dante Wright, even though she got out real early. Or even with Botham Jean and with Amber Geiger, she got 10 years. But we'll never know now because he didn't do it. That will forever be your stain. When black people look at you, or whenever they think of you, or whenever your name is uttered, that's going to follow Daniel Cameron to the day he dies. And I'm not talking about his political career. I'm talking about him. When he goes to take that eternal dirt nap, he takes with it the grief of Breonna Taylor's family, friends, associates, Kenneth Walker. He's going to take all of that with him. And I hope it haunts him on the other side. As y'all can tell by the tone in my voice, I can't stand this fool. I had an article sitting right here in front of me on my phone prepared to read. I couldn't even bring myself to read it because it's probably going to praise his accolades. I could give a damn about it. The only part I had to read was because I wanted to see who he was running against. And reading that part, actually was a little refreshing because it lets you know there's a slight chance in hell, maybe a major chance he may not win. But I'm curious of what he's going to talk about, even though I can't stand the sound of his voice. He always talks like he got a bunch of saliva. Man, listen, I'm not even going to get into that. I'll never forget the time this dude made a very cringe video with him and his wife wishing people, I don't know what day it was. It was for some random holiday. I can't remember what it was. And I looked at that video. It looked cringe. It just did. But when I saw that picture of him with his wife and all those other PC people around him, I guess they were celebrating something. I don't know what it was. A question that myself and many others had at the time was, where the hell is his family? It was not one black person besides him in that picture. Her family and friends were there, but his was not. Maybe they know, maybe there's some stuff about him that they know that they, maybe they're not saying. Or maybe they just don't mess with him. And you know what? Fine by me. Because one thing I've told or said to people or asked as far as a question when it comes to these Sambos is, where the hell is your family? I always ask that question, like, where's your family? Like, is there bad blood there? Or maybe they don't want to be a part of their antics, which if that is the case, they're very smart to not want to deal with that. I can guarantee Daniel Cameron probably doesn't get invited to many family cookouts. And I'm talking about a family on his side, not hers. They don't probably even call them cookouts. They call them something else. Maybe the picnic. I don't know. But as you can tell, I can't stand Daniel Cameron. I can't stand to look at his face. I can't stand to listen to him talk. When he did what he did back then, he has no idea what he could have done, or how the black community would have seen him if he had did what he was supposed to do. But he wanted to prove from them so bad. That's why I hope he loses in November, because then that shows you right there, you're just a I don't want to say a puppet. You're just a pawn. Him losing this run for governor in November will be very interesting, especially after reading that quote about how much their current governor is very loved and very popular in the state and in the establishment, and how Republicans, people on his side, are saying he will be tough to beat. Basically saying it'll be a miracle if you win. And if you do win, it's probably not even going to be by a landslide. It's probably going to be by a small margin, which means you will barely win. But what he's banking on is the fact that he's clicked in with Mitch McConnell. If he wasn't clicked in with Mitch McConnell, he probably wouldn't even run. And that's what he's banking on. If he can't win this spot as being governor, even with Mitch McConnell on his side, this guy has no chance in a future as far as politics goes. It's done. But that's really all I have to say as it pertains to him. Again, I still can't believe I hadn't done a bed bucking video on this guy until today. I went back to the archives just to make sure if I had one or not, and see if he needed a part 2. But no, he's never been in. Well, consider this his grand opening into it. But something tells me he will have more entries come soon, and hopefully the outcome that I want in November is clear. That way he can have another entry, and y'all know exactly what I'm talking about.